Hello, welcome to another episode of In a Candy Store podcast. Today's guest is Joe. Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm good, Diana. Yes, I'm good. I've had night of stable blood sugar levels, so all is good
I'm
for the
happy to
moment.
hear that. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I love you. I love that you're recording from outside.
Yes, it's I think it's the most comfortable way to do it. It's the most comfortable way to have a conversation while we're out here walking the streets of England.
I'm so happy.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I'm 38 years old, living in England. And I've had type 1 diabetes for the last 24 years. So I'm
Okay.
38 years old. I was diagnosed at 14. And yeah, I presume you found me through my YouTube channel, was it?
Yeah, I
Or
found you
Instagram?
on Instagram, and but then I saw your YouTube channel, which we will talk about in a bit. But
Yeah.
I really liked it. Like it's a good idea to document your experiences while traveling. But like I said, introduce yourself and then we can
Yeah,
just talk a
absolutely.
little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think the diagnosis is probably something that's worth um, talking about to sort of relate to people that have type 1 diabetes and also are potentially going through the very early stages of diagnosis because it's something that's different for everyone in slightly different ways. It's also something that people should know about. If people don't know about type 1 diabetes, there are certain symptoms that we go through before the diagnosis, which
What were your
um,
symptoms?
yeah, so mine, I was, like I say, I was 14 years old. I was very underweight, constantly thirsty, like drinking insane amounts of water constantly throughout the night, needing to use the toilet constantly, headache, very lethargic, feeling quite nauseous, very tired, and I think the thirst is probably one of the main aspects people should probably look at if you've got a sick child or a sick friend, relative, whatever that is going through some of these symptoms. It's probably worth looking at the things that I've mentioned to potentially get tested for diabetes or type 1 diabetes. And actually, because the body's pancreas is no longer producing insulin, it can be quite fatal. You know, you can fall into a coma potentially. So, if you know someone that's going through some of those symptoms, um, I would think about getting them tested for type 1 diabetes just to, uh, you know, go forward in the most safe, positive way and hopefully get it sorted.
Okay, I completely agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. Do you do you remember how was your life before you were diagnosed? Do you have like you like people usually say, oh, COVID started and then it was like before COVID and after COVID. Like, do you have something like that with your diagnosis? Do you have like, oh, my life my pre-diagnosis and after that? What
Uh,
changed? How was your initial reaction? How did you? Because you're a teenager, it's a tough years. Those are tough years for a person to deal with anything, let alone getting sick with such a like difficult disease.
yeah, absolutely. It's it's a real contrast to my teenage years, and I can't. Well, let's go. So we'll go to what it was like before. So before I was diagnosed, I had a what you could call a relatively normal childhood. I was out on my bike and playing, climbing trees, and doing everything a normal sort of boy would do. Um, and then with the diagnosis and having to inject, um, you know, there are so many variables with this condition. There are so many factors at play. There are so many things that affect blood sugar levels, not just food. You know, there are so many things like our sleeping patterns, concentration levels, what's happening with our psychology, whether we're concentrating, whether we're happy, sad, the weather, the temperature outside, all these things alongside our crazy hormones as a teenager, injecting insulin levels that are constantly changing, never knowing how much insulin to inject for certain meals. And even when you get it right, it might change the next day when you eat the exact same
It's never
thing.
the same.
It's crazy. It is like, it's really difficult. And so
I,
for me as a
I,
teenager,
I loved, I'm
yeah,
sorry, I'm just gonna I say a quick something. I love that you mentioned all of those things because usually people think, oh, if you eat healthy, it's fine. Like that's the only thing that affects sugar, but there's so many other things that can affect your blood levels, especially when you're a teenager. Like there's also many hormonal changes that happens in humans' body.
yeah, absolutely. And it's a very difficult thing to explain to people. You know, you can't wrap up this autoimmune disease in a few sentences. You really can't. And it can be very frustrating when people tend to have so many people, which I probably have certain misconceptions, common misconceptions about other diseases or
Okay.
things in this world, because that's just what we do, unfortunately. But it can be very frustrating when people, I had someone the other day saying, oh, you've got diabetes. I said, yeah, type 1. He said, oh, that's the one where you have to eat sugar as opposed to not eating sugar. I said, that's not a thing. As far as
Yeah.
I'm aware, that's not unless there's like a random sort of off the wall type of diabetes where you constantly have to eat sugar, which I don't think there is. Um, so these are some
Sorry,
of the
I
things.
understand you completely what you're saying, and I can laugh about it because I have the same experience. So,
Yeah, yeah. Um, so it's good to do these types of podcasts because um, it's good to hopefully inspire people that have got type 1 diabetes to know that we can still live normal lives, we can still do everything we want to do, and hopefully inform people as well because it is a very, very complex condition. So yeah, as for the teenage years, I kind of in many ways I just got on with it. I learned about what affects blood sugar levels, uh, maintaining insulin doses. I was covered my arms, my stomach, my legs because I had no body fat on me. Um, I was covered in bruises for quite a few years. The insulin would just gather in a lump. It wouldn't disperse around my body properly, so my sugar levels would be really, really high. Then
mhm.
eventually the insulin would like disperse through my body, then I'd go low, hyper to hypo, crazy blood sugar levels. But I still managed to get out and do everything I wanted to do with this kind of working in the background, this stress and anxiety of having this condition. And another thing I would say is living with type 1 diabetes, the experience of living with type 1 diabetes, and I'd be interested to know your opinion and your personal experience, but I would say categorically for me, it's a psychological condition. The experience of living with it is psychological. Like, yeah, there's a
Absolutely,
physical aspect to
absolutely,
it.
yeah.
Like injecting insulin into our bodies, in our legs, in our arms,
That was
wherever we choose
actually
to do it.
the next thing I wanted to ask you. Did you ever have like some sort of therapy? Did you have ever had the ability? Because we didn't. I don't think we said where are you exactly from, which city, which place. It's England, right?
Yeah, so I'm from Birmingham, which is right in the
Okay.
middle of the country, but I now live about 3.5 years ago. I moved down to the south of the country. I'm on the coast now by the sea.
Okay. So the situation in England, right? How was it considering mental health and diabetes? Do you have any insight on that?
So things have come on, like, things have come a lot further than uh, like 24 years ago when I was first
Okay.
diagnosed. So I I didn't have any. I'm not saying I couldn't have chose to. Uh, I could have gone down a path of having counselling, therapy, talking to someone. Um, if I'd have had the insight and the sort of self-awareness to have
Yeah.
done that at any point during probably my teens, if not in my early 20s, and I just never. It's literally only been the last few months that I have really looked at my psychology, my history, the trauma that I've been essentially suppressing for many years, which I wasn't even aware of. And I started to have therapy the last few months, talking to um, someone about all of the things that go on with diabetes and our psychology, because it is massively traumatic, whether
Yeah.
you whether you show it outwardly or not. It's a crazy thing to have to go through and to have lived so many years without having counseling or therapy is I find it quite
It's a huge mental load.
it's yeah, it's a lot, it's a hell of a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree and I completely understand you. Did you knew anybody else when you were like in your teenage years that had type 1 diabetes?
I knew of a couple of people that had it, but no one close to me, no one in my family's got it. But another thing, when it comes to like common misconceptions, one thing that's really worth pointing out is I remember there was a girl at my primary school when I was a lot younger. She had type 1 diabetes, and she was quite often having hypos and obviously living with type 1 diabetes, living the type 1 diabetes life. She had hypers. Um, some days she was sick, and the only thing from my memory I remember people saying about her is, "Oh, she doesn't look after herself. She's just always sick.
Yeah.
She's having hypos. She's done too much insulin. All these things that, and I vividly remember that. And I remember a couple of scenarios with other kids at school later on, before I got diagnosed, saying exactly the same thing. Oh, they've done it. They've done it again. They're having a hypo, and this condition is so insanely like variable and
Yeah, and it's
difficult
so
to live
tricky.
with.
Like
It's
it can be
really
great
tedious.
one day and the next day like, oh, what happened? I don't know, something just not clicking. But also I wanted to ask you because I'm basically listening to a story and like I'm listening to myself. Like I have to say, I was 10 years when I was diagnosed. And like you said, the last 26 years of my diagnosis, things have changed and they are better now. And they are better because of many internet information you can find on your own. When I was diagnosed, there was none of that. And like you said, you as well, there was none of that. There were no information. Like you had to rely on your doctors if they knew what they were doing. And so many of them haven't even seen a child that has type 1 diabetes. It was usually, oh, type 2, and old people get it from, I don't know, stress and things like that. So
Yeah,
the whole disease was so complicated, and when I'm listening to you now, it's like you're describing my my childhood and my teenage years because they were very difficult. And like you
yeah,
said, you can't always explain to people. And people have many thoughts about, oh, why don't you take care of yourself? And I have to admit, I didn't take care of myself for a certain period of time because
Yeah,
you just want to fit in. I mean, you just want to be
yeah.
like everybody else. You don't want to be different. But did you have situations like maybe when I went to college, there were so many situations where I would have hypos and people would think I'm drunk. Did you have those
Yeah.
situations?
Um, I I've had similar situations. Um, a lot of the time, I probably was drunk as well.
Yeah, me too. But like there were situations when I wasn't. I just want to point that out.
I think that's a very common thing for people to seem like they're possibly on drugs or drinking alcohol, um, and for people to kind of think that's what's happening. For me, um, I can't remember specific times when people have thought I was drunk, but I know that there are many times, even whether we're talking about earlier years or present time, where a hypo comes on and because my concentration goes and I'm
Yeah,
like starting to like my speech goes, I'm not talking.
yeah. It
There is
looks like
definitely
seizure.
it looks like something. I don't know whether they even know what it is. They're just kind of like, is your brain working? What's going on with this person? Um, but yeah, interesting to listen to your um, perspective on that as well, and your experience of, like you say, going to college and also at times not looking after yourself,
Yeah,
which
I,
I
I think
haven't,
nobody's looking up, or at least our generation didn't do that. We were very like loose and do whatever we wanted. I think these new
yeah,
generations are a bit better at taking care of themselves. Being sick or not, it doesn't matter. They're just like they love each other, love themselves more. I don't think we had that. It was more like, oh, you have to fit in. You just have to fit in and not to be different from anybody. If everybody's drinking, you're drinking. If everybody's partying, you're partying. Like, at least that was in my case. And I think from people I talk to, that's pretty much common situation everywhere.
yeah, I would absolutely agree. Yeah, 100%. Um, and I think the load that we carry almost lends itself to, but it has in the past. I try not to do it as much now, but it, the load that we carry psychologically, having to deal with the stress and it's almost like having there's like loose shackles around my ankles constantly that I can't
Yeah.
ever shake off. I can't like I'm free to walk around, but someone's just there's something constantly
Yeah,
just
it's always
slightly
there.
pulling me from not being entirely free, which is insanely suffocating. And but you often hear people say about whether it's a disease or losing a loved one or
Yeah.
any kind of difficult emotional or mental, psychological experience or journey we're going through, that things don't necessarily get easier. You just learn to live with it and learn to deal with it and
Yeah.
get used to it. But it
You
doesn't
just
necessarily get easier. It's,
yeah, you just
it's
learn to live. That's it. That with it, like you said. Okay, can we talk about a little bit about your travels through India? Because that is what I saw at your profile. I was very interested. So you went to India for how long?
I was there just over 3 months. So I've actually been uploading videos since I've been back in England for probably about, I'm guessing, 4 months. I've gradually been uploading videos from my travels over the winter, and Yeah, I've been there a few times. So I work as a gardener here in England. So what I've done for quite a few years now, I uh, work throughout the main uh, summer, the sort of busy period here in England, and then I go off and get away for the winter. I escape the dark, depressing winter months of England and I go away. I've done various countries over the years. I've been to, um, for anyone that's sort of, I remember the first time I ever went away with this condition. I was nervous about my insulin, storing my insulin, how I was going to manage eating food I've never eaten before. And this was just going away for like 4 days in my early 20s. And I was really nervous and I didn't know how I was going to manage. And then gradually over the years, I kept pushing myself further and further. And then when I was in my mid 20s, I went to Thailand for a few months and I went off by myself. It was the first time I've been anywhere by myself. Um, and since then, I've been to many different countries. I've been to America, Canada,
Wow.
um, Thailand. I've done Vietnam, Cambodia, um, Sri Lanka a few
You
years
should come
ago.
to Bosnia.
I will absolutely come to Bosnia. We can do a video together.
Yeah, we should
Um,
definitely. And you will love it. It's nature, it's amazing people. You'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at some of your videos and they look incredible. Like you say, the nature aspect of it
Yeah, some
looks
of them are from Serbia,
beautiful.
but Serbia is also amazing. Like the whole Balkan is just beautiful.
Yeah, they're definitely that whole region has been on my list for a while. Other parts of Europe I'd love to see.
How
Um,
difficult, sorry to interrupt, how difficult is to travel with type 1 in your way of traveling like for 3 months? And
um,
alone, you said you traveled alone also. How difficult is that?
it's because I love it so much and because I'm driven to do it, and I think part of my drive actually comes from quite, and I've only realized this really the last sort of couple of years, and especially as I go through this therapy that I've been doing the last few months, there is a very deeply embedded sense of not being free with my diabetes. It really does. I it almost brings a tear to my eyes. I'm talking about it, like because people don't like you can. I don't think no one will ever truly understand the emotional aspect and psychological aspect of living with this 24 hours a day. And you can tell people in a few sentences, you can talk to people for an entire day. And I don't think it's until really you spend a few months, day in, day out, with someone that has this condition, when you've really, like when I've had partners in the past, really other than my immediate family, my parents and my sister, I don't have any children. But my parents and my sister are really the only people and partners I've had over the years that get to grips with how much of a life-changing, life-altering condition this is. So, with that said, my the traveling I've done over the years and what I continue to do with my solo traveling is really a sort of that is definitely deeply embedded within me. I want to feel like I can have this sense of freedom. So, uh, dealing with the type 1 diabetes when I go traveling is very difficult. It's like practically as well, like practically keeping. I take so much insulin. I take extra insulin, extra blood glucose meters. I take extra blood glucose testing strips. I also use a Dexcom, which I use on and off. Um, that's another conversation probably for itself. I think there's pros and cons with these CGM things that we use. I sometimes find them incredibly frustrating. Sometimes find that they do give me more freedom, but hopefully with the videos that I've got on YouTube of my travels and talking about type 1 diabetes, it can hopefully explain to people that it is difficult and it is uh, something that is a challenge, but it's also something that you can absolutely do. You know, you can go and jump on a plane to a random country you've never been to before with a backpack full of, which adds a hell of a lot of weight on luggage. I've got ways of keeping my insulin at the right temperature by using these Frio bags. So yeah, just for anyone that happens to be watching this, if you're thinking of going on your first holiday, whether it's for 2 days, 2 months, whatever country you're going to, it's absolutely possible. You can absolutely do it, and you can travel with a group. You can travel by yourself. There's certain precautions you're going to want to take, and it will probably be challenging, but it will also create strength within you. And I do definitely feel like I've become a far more confident, strong person through doing these things.
Okay. Joe, thank you so much for talking for this podcast. You shared so many valuable informations. And honestly, like I said, I recognize myself in so many of your stories because we were both diagnosed when we were very young. So again, thank you so much. I'm sure this will help many people who see this podcast and your travels, what you do with your life, like you travel to all these countries. I think people are still afraid of those things. And I'm sure your story will help them, get the courage and just decide, okay, if Joe can do it, so can I. Like,
Uh,
I will take some extra measures, like you said, figure everything out. And then, well, I'm not talking about myself. I traveled a lot, but like, yeah, there are people who are
yeah,
very cautious, who don't want to experiment, who are afraid, like, oh, if I do this, maybe then that will mix up, right? Is that the word?
yeah,
My
yeah,
blood
yeah,
sugar,
yeah, yeah.
sorry. But I think your experience will help many people to just be a little more free, more free.
Yeah, that's really kind of you to say. And also, Diana, I just want to say it's been amazing to connect with someone who also has type 1 diabetes, and we seem to share very similar histories and
Yes.
experiences with it. Um, you're really you're a good host,
Oh, thank
and
you.
it's been a really comfortable conversation. Hopefully, we can talk again at some
Yeah,
point.
I would love that. We will definitely talk again, maybe about your travels or maybe what you eat, what you use from your medication a little bit in detail when you're in England and when you're in your other countries where you travel. How do you prepare for traveling? I think all of that would be interesting for you to share.
Yeah, that'd be really good. Um, so I'll see you in Bosnia.
Yeah, I really looking forward to that. Thank you again for being our guest. And for the rest
Thank
of
you.
you, take care of your health and see you in another episode.